In the late 70s and early 80s, Colombia was a nation teetering on the edge. The country was riddled with socio-political unrest and economic disparity. The government was unstable, and the gap between the rich and the poor was vast, creating a breeding ground for illicit activities. A new commodity was quietly gaining momentum: cocaine. This potent white powder was gradually transforming the socio-economic landscape of the country. Colombian marijuana traffickers had begun smuggling small quantities of cocaine into the United States. This shift in operations marked the genesis of a new era of drug trade, which would soon evolve into an empire that would hold the world at ransom. This was the time when the seeds of the Medellin Cartel were sown. The cartel was not just a drug trafficking organization, it was a sophisticated, highly organized machine that functioned with ruthless efficiency, led by figures who would become synonymous with terror and violence. One such figure was a man who would soon be known as the King of Cocaine, Pablo Escobar. The economic disparities and political instability, coupled with the rise of the drug trade, created the perfect storm for the birth of the cartel. The organization exploited the chaos, using it as a shield as it began to weave its web of influence and power. In the midst of this chaos, a new power was rising: the Medellin Cartel. Born from the ashes of a turbulent era, the Medellin Cartel was about to make its mark. Formed in the mid-70s, it was the brainchild of a few ambitious men, notably Pablo Escobar. Initially, they were small-time marijuana traffickers, but soon they saw the potential in the burgeoning cocaine trade. Escobar, already known for his ruthless and ambitious nature, played a significant role in the cartel's growth. He envisioned a drug empire, one that would extend its reach far beyond the borders of Colombia, and he set about to make that vision a reality. The Medellin Cartel began smuggling small amounts of cocaine into the United States. Their operations, though modest at first, were highly organized and efficient. It wasn't long before their influence began to grow, and with it their power. They controlled the majority of the cocaine supply to the United States, a feat that turned them into a formidable force in the global drug trade. The economic impact was staggering. At its peak, the Medellin Cartel was making an obscene amount of money, often compared to a Fortune 500 company. They owned an impressive fleet of planes, helicopters, yachts, and even submarines, all dedicated to their illicit trade. With ruthless efficiency and a knack for business, the Medellin Cartel quickly grew into a powerhouse. But as their wealth and power grew, so too did their propensity for violence and their disregard for the law. Little did they know their reign was just beginning. At the helm of this operation was the infamous Pablo Escobar. Known as Don Pablo and the King of Cocaine, Escobar was a formidable figure. Born in 1949, he grew up in a turbulent time in Colombia's history and started his criminal career as a car thief, gradually moving into the drug trafficking business. His leadership was instrumental in transforming the Medellin Cartel from a local operation into a global enterprise. Escobar and his associates developed sophisticated methods for smuggling cocaine into the United States and other countries. They owned a fleet of planes, helicopters, yachts, and even 2 submarines, which they used to transport their illicit goods. Under Escobar, the cartel's influence grew exponentially, to the point where they controlled a staggering 90% of the global cocaine market and supplied almost all of the United States cocaine. The cartel's economic power rivaled that of a Fortune 500 company, making around $100 million in drug profits per day. But Escobar's reign wasn't just about drugs and money. He was also known for his brutal tactics, including bribery, intimidation, and assassination. He used violence and fear to maintain control, and he wasn't afraid to take on the government, guerrilla groups, or rival cartels. Under Escobar, the Medellin Cartel was not just a criminal organization, it was an empire. But the Medellin Cartel's reign was not one of peace, it was one of terror. As the cartel's influence grew, so did its use of violence. This was a group that wouldn't hesitate to use bullets when money failed to get them what they wanted. Assassinations became a common tool for maintaining control. Prominent figures who dared to oppose them, including 3 presidential candidates and even a newspaper editor, were brutally silenced. And let's not forget the bombing of Avianca Flight 203, a horrifying act of terror that claimed the lives of 107 people. Their conflicts weren't just with the government. The cartel also faced off against rival groups, the most notable being the Cali cartel. These disputes often escalated into bloodshed, further fueling the cycle of violence. But the terror wasn't contained within the cartel's business dealings. It seeped into the fabric of Colombian society, creating an environment of fear and uncertainty. Everyday citizens lived under the constant threat of violence, never knowing when or where the cartel might strike next. Yet, amidst the fear, the cartel found ways to manipulate public perception. They used their vast wealth to provide housing and food to the poorest citizens, earning their loyalty and making it even harder for the government to take them down. The Medellin Cartel's reign was a dark chapter in Colombia's history, one that would leave a lasting impact. Even after its fall, the scars of their reign of terror remain a grim reminder of a time when money and bullets ruled. But every empire falls, and the Medellin Cartel was no exception. The beginning of the end came when the colossal drug production complex, Tranquilandia, was dismantled by the Colombian government. This was a major blow to the cartel's operations. The cartel was further weakened by the internal conflicts and disputes with rival groups, notably the Cali cartel. The pressure from the government for surrender and negotiation was relentless, but these attempts largely failed. The cartel continued to engage in violent actions, including the murder of prominent figures such as a newspaper editor and a presidential candidate. However, the final nail in the coffin was the death of Pablo Escobar in 1993. He was the linchpin of the cartel, and his demise marked the end of the Medellin Cartel's reign of terror. Following his death, other key members were either captured or surrendered, leading to the collapse of what was once the most powerful drug cartel in the world. The fall of the Medellin cartel left a lasting impact not just on Colombia but on the global drug trade as well. The power vacuum led to the rise of other cartels, such as the Cali cartel, and reshaped the landscape of drug trafficking. Moreover, the cartel's use of violence and corruption to maintain control has influenced strategies of both current drug trafficking organizations and law enforcement agencies. The Medellin cartel may be gone, but its legacy continues to shape the world we live in today.